Hail, listener! 'Tis I, Chemistro the Match Mage, coming to you from the depths of the crystal sphere where I have been imprisoned. The aeons are long here, and to stay sane I have put out the call to wizards across the multiverse. Wizards that want to meet other wizards.
I seek, first and foremost, some person who might challenge me in organization.
I would just love to sit down and talk about dark magic over a cup of coffee. Or a cup of evil, which is a beverage I invented. Mostly made of coffee.
Yes, I did spend a long stint in the Sultan's dungeons for orchestrating a plot against his life. But that is my want as a vizier.
You see, I think the teeth are sort of the window to the soul.
Wizard Seeking Wizard is a dating podcast for wizards by wizards, featuring personal ads sent in by the magical community, where you get to vote on which wizards date each other. Follow us on Twitter at Wiz4Wiz, or find us wherever you pluck your podcasts from the ether.
Ah, hello. I've been expecting you. So, you would seek to gaze beyond the sight of mortal man, to transgress your earthly fetters and peer into that most unknowable realm, the future. Well, that will be 3 pounds. Thank you. Now, be still as I commune with the spirits. Oh my. Oh, how terrible. If these shadows do speak true, then it's Crowley time! Sir Chuntley. Hello, and welcome to Sir Chuntley Time with me, Sir Chuntley Buffingham. With me, Sir Chuntley Buffingham. What's the matter? Were you expecting someone else? Well, in honor of the sinister season, I have burst free from the fetters of my usual slot, presenting tales of terror in my radio program Drama Parlor, and have taken over the entire podcast to deliver a Halloween special packed with thrills and chills. And how did I convince your usual host Tom Crowley to allow me to take center stage, you ask? Why, all I had to do was knock him out and lock him in the basement.
Please, someone, let me out!
But of course, Tom lives in a first-floor flat, so what I actually had to do was lock him in with his downstairs neighbors.
Please, they're so boring!
But enough about him. It is I who pulls the strings this month. I, the Prince of Peril. I, the Sultan of Suspense. I, the actor available for work whose spotlight listing gives full details of his special skills in horse riding and archery. I, Sir Chuntley Buffingham. So prepare yourselves for horrors undreamt of till now in this unsettling episode, including some scary stories from the listeners, a particularly petrifying television docudrama, and, of course, an installment of my own program, Drama Parlor. But for now, we begin with this disturbing tale of 2 youngsters trespassing on a stormy night. To tell you the truth, Buford, when you said let's go check out the old McGillicuddy place, I thought that was code for oral sex.
Sorry, Jenny, but I'm too spooked to think about oral sex right now. This place is creepy.
It'll be okay, Buford. It's nothing but a dark old house, musty old furniture, a lot of shadowy old doorways.
Yeah, you're right, Jenny. It's nothing but... What the hell is that?
I don't know.
It's some kind of hideous old hag, like a witch kind of thing, or
Yeah. It's I think is it a puppet?
It kind of looks like a puppet. Stop doing that!
I don't think it's going to stop. It's just
just laughing and hanging there? Why is a witch puppet hanging in midair by itself and laughing?
Don't you kids know?
Oh, sweet Christ, don't do that. Don't sneak up on people.
Sorry.
Who are you, old geezer?
I'm the groundskeeper around these parts. Folks call me Old Lumpy.
Old Lumpy?
Yep, can't say as I care for it. And I see you've met the witch.
Well, yeah, but I don't get it. Like, is it a joke, or what is it? Like a witch jumping out, I'd get that. Or like someone holding a puppet. Or if the puppet was alive and attacked us, maybe. Yeah, with that I think I'd feel more comfortable, but it's just sort of hanging there and... yeah, like that kind of thing.
Sounds like you kids ain't heard the old legend.
There's a legend?
Well, it was a long time ago. One dark and tempestuous night, a gang of kids no older than you decided to come and snoop around the old McGillicuddy place.
Just like we did.
Yep. Well, a couple of them got separated from the group, wandered off on their own, and soon enough their imagination started to get the better of them. Jumping at shadows, they was.
Just like we are.
Yep. Well, imagine their fright when suddenly a terrifying witch leapt out of the shadows at them, cackling like the devil.
Just like this one.
Yep. Well, of course, turned out it was a deeply irritating friend of theirs who was filled with a sense of social rejection and sexual frustration, and he exercised these feelings by playing tricks on people. He'd brought a creepy old puppet of a witch to this old house and chose this moment to jump out and scare those kids.
Okay.
Seems he did too good a job. One of the kids he scared was on the high school boxing team. The kid lashed out in fright and punched the kid with the puppet right in the neck, collapsed his windpipe. The prankster was dead within minutes. That terrible tragedy took place 50 years ago this very night.
Okay, I don't get it.
What's that?
Yeah, me neither. I mean, is this the ghost of the sexually frustrated kid? Or is it the ghost of the puppet?
That's a mighty good question.
Or like, is this the actual puppet and there's an invisible ghost holding it up? Oh, that would make more sense. Can you touch the puppet? I don't know. No, my hand's going right through it. So the puppet's a ghost. But does a puppet have a soul, or is this like... Stay with me here. Okay, is this the ghost of the sexually frustrated kid, but manifested as the witch puppet? I guess. It kind of seems like putting a hat on a hat. Yeah, I know, but I'm just kind of working with what I'm being given. Yeah, I know. What do you think, Old Lumpy? He's gone. Buford, do you think maybe... Old Lumpy was the ghost all along? Oh!
Nope. I was just leaving. I was getting bored.
Oh, okay.
I'm going down to Slippery Pete's to get myself some oral sex. If you kids have any sense, you'll do the same.
Well, Jenny? It's tempting, but I kind of want to work out what's going on with this witch ghost puppet situation. Yeah, me too. Only, what? Can't we do both? Yeah, okay.
Of course, listener dear, Buford and Jenny's fright is perfectly understandable. After all, what could be more frightening than the unknown? That's what we asked you when we invited you to send us some of your own real-life horror stories. Let's listen to one of these chilling tales now.
Hello, this is Sir Chuntley. Time with me, Sir Chuntley Buffingham. Sir Chuntley Buffingham. We can't take your call at the moment. Please leave your message after the tone.
Yeah, so last year I ordered some fried chicken from the local piri-piri place, and when it turned up it was the usual chicken man, and the bag had the chicken restaurant logo on it, but when I opened it up, it was a Chinese duck banquet for 4. How can your science explain that?
Thank you, caller. What frightful service. But of course, word of mouth is not the only way we can experience real-life terror. Why, every day, waking nightmares are beamed directly into your home via television. In fact, I think there's a program starting right now. When disaster strikes, will your fingers fly fast enough? I'm Brian Surgery, and this is Emergency Call. Emergency Call. Today's real-life emergency call. The year is 1990. The Righteous Brothers were top of the charts, with D-Light nipping at their righteous heels. Total Recall came out. And for one primary school class from Little Ho Chi Minh City in Hampshire, terror was putting its shoes on. 8-year-old Tim Quilting and the rest of his class, 4B, were spending the day at the Idle Chasm Outdoor Exploration Centre, partly to learn about geography and partly to give their teachers a break from having to look at their stupid little faces for a day. The morning's events, a zipline session and guess the weight of the fossilised wood, passed without incident. But it was the afternoon's adventure, potholing, where danger reared its disgusting head.
I'd never had any interest in potholing, no, or anything to do with the outdoors. In fact, I can remember pretending to have a cold that morning to try and get out of the school trip. My mum always was pretty gullible, and I was pretty sure I was going to spend the day swaddled in blankets playing Super Mario Bros. 3.
The voice of the now grown-up Tim Quilting there, who might have had a very different day, tucked up in bed at home, except for one crucial mistake.
My mum asked me if I was sure I was feeling too ill to go on the trip, and instead of saying yes, which I should have done, I accidentally said no.
His first deadly error, but not the last one. 4B were under the tutelage of veteran cave diving instructor Hugo Groin, who led the small children into the underground cave.
I've led hundreds of these expeditions through the cave system, and until that day I've never had anything go wrong.
But go wrong, something was indeed destined to go.
I watched the safety demonstration really closely. I found the prospect of the dive quite frightening, actually, so I was paying very close attention, except for about 3 minutes when I thought I saw a bird. It's all pretty straightforward, really. The children follow closely behind me, down into the cave system, holding onto a guide rope. The water comes up to about your waist, or your chin, if you're a small child. It's pretty terrifying, really. You should see the looks on their faces sometimes.
Now, don't be alarmed. What you're watching is just our special reconstruction of these events, in which I play every character. Don't let go of the rope. Have you got that, kids? Yes, thank you, Mr. Groin. At first, the potholing expedition went as planned. The children followed Hugo through the caves, literally terrified into learning. But then came the most challenging challenge.
There's a fun bit where you have to duck your head under the water for just about 3 feet to get past some low rock, and you come up for air on the other side to get out. And I'll tell you, if there's one bit of the dive where a child is going to wee themselves, that's it.
But despite this, little Tim felt confident.
Well, I'd seen all the kids ahead of me do the little ducking under the rock bit, and it seemed pretty simple, so yeah, I thought this was going to be a total piece of piss, quite honestly.
But it wasn't. In an almost inexplicable turn of events, while ducking under the rock face, Tim managed to let go of the guide rope and veer 12 feet off course. And when he surfaced again, he found himself in a tiny, enclosed dead end. Oh Christ, what's going on? He couldn't see, as there was no light in the cave, though there was air. But for how long?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the lack of any light source, and feeling around in the dark and only finding more rock. That's when I well and truly started to shit it. When children stopped coming out of the cave exit on the other side, we did a head count, like we always do, and as you'd expect, we came up one short, because obviously Tim wasn't there. But it was actually Tim's teacher who said not to worry about it, because apparently the kids were always wandering off and messing with electrical equipment or playing with themselves or something.
But when Tim failed to reappear after 3 hours, eyebrows were raised. This was when Hugo made his best decision all day.
I rang 999 and made an emergency call.
Emergency call. Hello, emergency. I've lost a child. A mere 12 minutes after Hugo's call, a crack team of emergency divers arrived at the scene. Using sophisticated thermal imaging technology and breathing apparatus, Hugo and the divers began their search of the caves. In here, is it? Yes, in the cave. Meanwhile, little Tim was still stuck in the tiny side cave, frightened to move and running out of air. Jesus Christ, where is everyone?
The thought that I was going to die there did cross my mind, but it was sort of hard to hear that thought over all the common or garden freaking out that I was doing. However, soon enough, God be praised, the divers noticed the tiny aperture in the main cave trail through which little Tim had in error passed, and knew that they had found the solution to the child-based mystery. I didn't even know that little air pocket was in there, so obviously when we swam through that aperture, we were bracing ourselves for a dead kid situation. But Hosanna in the highest, when Hugo surfaced in the side cave, there was little Tim, cold and frightened, but alive. Are you the missing boy? Yes, hello. But there was a further complication. The divers didn't have any extra air tanks, so to save Tim, Hugo was going to have to give up his own. It was just one of those spur-of-the-moment decisions. I knew I'd have to take off my breathing mask and give it to Tim if we were going to get him out of there. I didn't even consider the danger to myself in the moment. Maybe if I had, I would have asked one of the other diving blokes to do it. I mean, that's their job after all. After carefully extracting Tim and leading the divers through to the exit, holding his breath for dear life all the way, Hugo emerged from the cave system a hero, cheered and applauded by Tim's relieved school chums and teachers. Hugo Groyne really is a hero. My entire life, everything I've done since that day, my tech industry investment portfolio, the Maserati, the second home in Spain, I owe it all to his bravery. Like I always say, I was just doing my job. In fact, it was only a couple of weeks after that when my mum died, which suited me fine as she'd left me quite a hefty packet in the will. If it wasn't for Hugo, I never would have seen any of that money. An astonishing act of bravery, which no one involved would soon forget. And Hugo says that his sense of achievement isn't marred by the fact that little Tim grew up to be a Class A bastard. I mean, obviously risking your life to save that of a child, anyone would do that for any child, but when you find yourself really truly in that position, you are sort of hoping that the child might grow up to be a good person, or at least not a bad person, or at least not the worst person. Tim is 38 now and has made millions from setting up a company that uses stolen social media data to track down people who owe money to payday loan companies. Our software tracks down these povos with laser precision so they can be picked up by the collection agencies, just like Hugo and his team tracked me down all those years ago. Lol. Well, I ran into some financial difficulties myself a few years ago, and I found out it was actually Tim's software that led the debt collectors to my door, which was somewhat ironic. No, please, not my grandfather's watch. It's nothing personal. If you don't pay, we're coming your way. That's on my email, Sig. When they were stripping my flat bare, I did think to myself, if I hadn't saved Tim all those years back, then this wouldn't be happening, but I'm still glad that I did. I'm glad. I mean, anything else would have been monstrous, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Hugo Groyne was a hero, and all thanks to a well-timed 999 emergency call. Of course, it didn't work out very well for him, but for all he knew back then, little Tim Quilting could have grown up to be the next Florence Nightingale, not the next Florence Shightingale. Until next time, this is Brian Surgery saying night-night, and watch your back, because the next emergency call could be yours. Emergency call.
The creeping dread of injustice. Is there anything more terrifying? Let's go to the phones and find out.
Right, well, I seen my cat get flattened by a lorry, right? They were right outside my front door. Awful mess, horrible. Council didn't come and wipe it up for 2 weeks, and I wasn't about to blimmin' do it. Next day, cat walks back in through the cat flap happy as Larry, alive and well. I stopped going to church after that. Well, I reckon our God has abandoned us. Right, bye.
As well you might, caller. As well you might. Well, dear listeners, it is high time that I step out of the wings and take my rightful place in the limelight, in a special Halloween edition of our celebrated compendium of truly terrifying tales, Drama Parlor. The very spookiest of tidings to you, listeners. In this aptly timed edition, we present a true classic of the macabre. Brace yourself for the cosmic terror of The Racist Fishmen of Arkham by H.R. Lovenstuff. Chapter 1. They do say that in Arkham Village there is a man who was born with 3 heads, and in the very moment of his arrival into this world, those 3 heads did speak an ancient and unfamiliar tongue, telling warnings which mortal man was not meant to hear. Then 2 of the 3 heads dropped off, and in the end the boy became a landscape architect. He never spake the unknown tongue again, although once when he was 3 he burped and it sounded like he said balaclava. This was but one of the omens of Arkham, but this tale does not tell of the 3-headed boy, nor of the old man in the windmill who could see the future, nor the pig that could sing, nor the girl who was hit in the head with a brick when she was 10 and suddenly got really, really good at maths. No, this is my story. I had come to Arkham to sell firearms and cigarettes to the local children, but was distressed to find no children at all playing in the streets of the village. The occasional local adult could be seen skirting the edges of the streets, gibbering to themselves and drawing runes on the siding, all pretty normal for New England, really. But where were the shaven-headed youths singing bawdy songs and throwing rocks at the vulnerable? I asked a passing woman for an explanation, but she merely replied that the great frog would return soon and swallow all men into his vast maw, adding also that she would do hand stuff for $2 and mouth stuff for 50 cents. I was about to ask why the mouth stuff was cheaper, but thought better of it and hurried along to my lodgings. These were the mouldy, oil-slicked halls of the Seaward Inn, so named because William McKinley had once spent a night there, and subsequently described it as a right cunt of a place. As soon as I stepped over the threshold, I could see he had a point. There was a rising mildew which seemed to seep up the walls from the very foundations, reaching as high as a man's waist, and one of those insipid live, laugh, love needlepoints over the check-in desk. There, a fairly ordinary-looking young woman was turning the pages of a cute kitten's calendar and giggling inanely to herself. I approached her. "Good afternoon, young lady. I have a room reserved, and I hope to hell it's on the 2nd floor. I've already contracted 1 respiratory infection this year, and it was a bastard to shift." The young woman did not reply, or even look up from her cute kitten's calendar. She appeared mesmerized somehow, her eyes glazed over with the benign numbness of an idiot or a person leafleting for a church. She showed no resistance as I, short on patience and aching for a wank, walked behind the reception desk, found my reservation in the book, and pocketed the relevant room key. I tried my best to ignore the fact that the pictures in the calendar which so amused the woman were not of cute kittens at all, but road accidents. Later that evening, wank out of the way, I peered out of my shit room's window and beheld a wholly unexpected sight. Children. Where earlier there was not one youngster to be seen, there were now dozens, all trudging down the boardwalk en masse. The strangest thing was the silence. In my experience, you can't stop children from making noise, whether they're smashing bits of their anatomy against the sharp edges of tables or going on about some rubbish or other. But these children were silent as the grave. Even their feet made barely a shuffling sound as they made their doleful way toward the beach, their shoulders slumped, their heads at half-mast. I followed their path with my eyes and saw that the grim procession led into a rickety old warehouse building right beside the water. Whatever was to be found in that building, it was sure as hell going to be surrounded by impressionable kiddies. Smelling the distinct stink of opportunity, I gathered my sample case of guns and ciggies and followed the horde at a safe distance. From my vantage point behind a large bucket of very old squid, I could see that the children were entering the warehouse through a cellar door at the side, descending the stairs within. I could not see what lay beyond, but as the children descended, their faces were illuminated by a flickering glow, which must have been cast by a large campfire. However, the light dancing across their faces was not a warm yellow, but an icy blue. When the last child had entered, I approached the cellar door and peered into the depths. I could see nothing below but that same flickering blue glow, and hesitated for a moment. Should I risk casting myself into possible danger, all in the faint hope of flogging a few packs of camels to some creepy little tykes? Ah well, beats tugging myself off all night, I reasoned, and crept down the narrow stairs. I followed the flickering blue light and soon discovered its source. Underneath the warehouse was a large empty storage bay. At its centre was, indeed, some sort of bonfire burning in the centre of a wide metal dish. It burned brightly blue, and strangest to relate, as I drew closer to it, I felt colder, not warmer. It was a fucked up blue cold fire, and it was freaking me out. Before me, gazing at the fire devotedly, were the ranks of children I had followed, sitting cross-legged in neat rows, still making not a whisper. At least, not at first. Mere seconds after the last child took her seat on the sandy ground, I watched with horror as the shadows in the far corners of the room began to come alive. The darkness itself seemed to warp and contort, then take shape and stand up on two legs. Human-like figures emerged from the walls, crawling from nothingness, and proceeding towards the centre of the room beside the blue flame. It was only after 12 or so of these creatures had emerged that the shadows returned to bestilled unlife, like normal shadows. As these figures neared the fire, their features became more horrifyingly distinct. Their faces were grotesque, fishy parodies of men's, with small black beady eyes and pouting thin mouths. They were naked, but seemed clothed by the scales which lined every inch of their bodies. When they breathed, the gills on the sides of their faces flared and billowed wide. I know what you're thinking, by the way, and I couldn't see much going on in the groin area, but then I was quite far away. Terrified, I cowered lower behind the rows of children as the lead fishman raised his arms as if calling for quiet, though there was no sound to silence.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen,
he said in a hissing, sucking voice.
Thanks for coming out. Lovely to see you all again.
He paused, and there was a heavy silence. The children gazed at him, rapt.
They say you play the fish-gutting warehouse basement twice in your career. Once on the way up, and once on the way down. It's nice to be back.
I had heard this line in every crappy comedy club in every city I'd ever visited in the United States, but the children exploded in a rapturous wave of laughter. The hypnotic power held by the fishman over these kids was evidently strong to elicit such a reaction from that wheezing old pater. The fishman, emboldened by this reception, began his next bit of material.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I was in the high street earlier today, and I couldn't believe the number of curry houses that have opened up recently.
Oh Christ, I thought to myself, and immediately my worst fears were confirmed. The fishman proceeded to tell the most racist joke I have ever heard. Not like ironically racist or period-accurate racist, genuinely the most unpleasant piece of material I have ever heard in my life. I'm not even going to tell you what it was that rancid. But the worst thing, the thing that sent a cold bolt of fright down my spine, was that the children absolutely loved it. They cheered, they roared, they clapped their hands. One of them even took off his baseball cap and threw it in the air in approval. I distinctly heard one of them say, "Now this is comedy." The fishman surveyed his delighted crowd, grinning smugly. "This is right out of order," someone said close by, and it was with a shiver that I realized it was me. The crowd suddenly fell silent, and the children's heads turned slowly as one toward me, until all I could see was a wall of pudgy, red, hateful little faces. the lead fishman found me with his black little eyes and called out,
"Oh, look, everyone! It's the PC Thought Police!"
End of chapter. What will become of our nameless travelling salesman? Will the principles of freedom of speech spare the fishman from the reprisals he so clearly deserves? Will the horrible children's less savoury qualities make them more susceptible to the purchase of fags and shooters? And was this a parable about right-wing comedians being given television work in the interests of balance, or a commentary on the corrupting influences of right-wing YouTubers and Twitch streamers, or what exactly was going on there? And besides, wouldn't it make more sense if the protagonist was the racist one, given the reputation of these stories and their author? For the answers to all these questions, tune in next time we dip our toe into the silty waters of the drama parlour. I do hope you enjoyed that off-season trip to the seaside, dear listener, and that your ice cream didn't fall into the sand or get stolen by a rat. Friends, I'm afraid that we've nearly reached the end of our sinister sojourn, but we've just got time to check our answering machine once more for another of your own fearful anecdotes.
I saw a real ghost. Well, I didn't, my second cousin did, and he wouldn't lie. Except at the inquest, that was proved later, but he would never lie to me. Except that time at my wedding, but he'd had a drink, we all had. Oh, never mind.
Oh dear. What an anticlimactic end to our anthology of the awful. But in many ways, what could be more horrifying than disappointment? My most profound thanks to you, dear listeners, for your indulgence in following me down this trail of tears. But for now...
You bastard.
Oh dear.
I've been locked in with those people downstairs for hours. They showed me every single precious memory slideshow that their phones had ever automatically generated for them, and they were all the same!
Forgive me, dear Tom.
All the same! Every single photo was of them holding a cocktail up to the camera! In a bar in Soho, on the beach in France, on the beach in Italy, on a rooftop in Dubai. Cocktails, cocktails, cocktails! I had to crawl out of the window while they were looking for their wedding album. It was Great Gatsby themed!
Please, Tom, be gentle with my lapels. They're crushed velvet, you know.
Why? Why did you do it? You could have just asked! I'd have let you do a Halloween special any time! Why did you do it?
Why, it's Halloween, Tom. 'Tis the season to torment and terrify.
Just fuck off!
Right you are. Bye, Tom. See you next time.
The stink of brandy in here. Well, listeners, I hope you've had a suitably horrific time. I know I have. If you'd like to support me in making this show and help me buy a stronger lock for my studio door, go to patreon.com/CrowleyTime and become a supporter today. Once you've done that, you can access all the show's bonus material past, present, and future, including this episode's extra exclusive treat. If you'd like to know what that is, make sure to listen after the credits. The next episode will be released as soon as I can get Chuntley's musk out of my recording studio. So make sure to subscribe, so you'll be alerted at the precise moment that happens. Everything you've just heard was made by me, Tom Crowley. Please submit all praise, questions, or complaints to @atomcrowley on Twitter. To help me ruin my body with frozen pies and gin, go to patreon.com/CrowleyTime and become a supporter today. And remember, ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all go into Tier 3 local lockdown. Hello, I'm Brian Surgery, presenter of Emergency Call. This autumn, don't miss out on my new rap single, Halloween Emergency brackets theme from Emergency Call close brackets. Fresh new beats from me and electronic music genius Glovelawn. Available exclusively from patreon.com/CrowleyTime. Emergency call! Emergency call! Please help me! Emergency call!
Emergency call. Nino, Nino, Nino.
Brian, surgery out.